My name is Emma. I'm 32 years old. 3 weeks ago, at my sister's baby shower, she stood up in front of our relatives and announced that my late husband was the father of her baby and that she deserved half of his $50 million inheritance. The entire room went dead silent. Everyone turned to look at me with pity. Everyone, except my sister, who just smirked like she'd won. So I pulled out a few documents and showed them to her, documents that made the color drain from her face. But before I show you what those papers were, let me take you back to the day my sister decided to destroy my life in public. 6 months ago, my husband, David, died in a car accident on Route 95. A drunk driver crossed the median during rush hour. David's Honda didn't stand a chance against a pickup truck. The police told me he died instantly. I've clung to that detail like a lifeline. At least he didn't suffer. The funeral was a blur. I remember my mother obsessing over the flower arrangements, worried about what people would think. My father stood rigid in his black suit, uncomfortable with emotion as always. And my sister Ashley showed up late, mascara already smeared, a vintage Chanel bag, probably rented, swinging from her shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Emma," she whispered, giving me a quick hug. Then her attention immediately snapped back to her phone. Even at my husband's funeral, Ashley couldn't resist checking her Instagram notifications. David and I had been married for 5 years. We met at a marketing conference in Boston. He was presenting on consumer behavior analytics, and I was there representing my firm. He had this way of explaining complex data that made it feel like poetry. We got coffee after his panel. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a weekend in Cape Cod. 3 months later, he proposed on a beach at sunset, like something out of a rom-com. My parents loved him immediately. David was everything they wanted for me. Stable career at a tech company, master's degree from Boston University, owned his own condo before we even met. He was respectful, remembered birthdays, and didn't drink too much at family dinners. "Finally," my mother had said after meeting him, "someone who can take care of you." As if I needed taking care of. I was already a marketing director at 30, pulling in 80,000 a year. But that was my mother, still living in a world where a woman's worth was measured by her husband's success. What my parents loved most about David, though, was the promise of grandchildren. From the moment we got engaged, the questions started. When are we going to hear the pitter-patter of little feet? Your biological clock is ticking, Emma. Ashley's already 26, but she's not exactly marriage material. You're our hope for grandbabies. David and I would smile and deflect. We're focusing on our careers first. We want to be financially stable. We're not ready yet. All lies. The truth was something we kept locked away, hidden in a file folder in the back of my nightstand drawer, buried under old birthday cards and spare phone chargers. 18 months before David died, after nearly 2 years of trying, that consisted mainly of disappointing pregnancy tests and my mother's increasingly pointed comments about our childless state, we finally went to see a fertility specialist. I'll never forget the day we got the results. Dr. Jennifer Parker's office had those motivational posters on the walls, beaches at sunset, mountains with inspirational quotes. One said, "Every journey begins with a single step." It felt cruel in retrospect. Dr. Parker sat across from us, her hands folded on the desk. She was maybe 50, with kind eyes and the sort of calm demeanor that came from delivering difficult news for 20 years. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm afraid the results show azoospermia, a complete absence of sperm in your semen. It's a permanent condition, likely congenital." The words hung in the air like smoke. "What does that mean exactly?" David's voice was steady, but I could see his jaw clenching. "It means natural conception isn't possible. However, we have options: IVF with donor sperm, or adoption. Both have excellent success rates, and many couples—" "I'd like to go," David interrupted, standing abruptly. "Thank you for your time." We didn't speak in the car. David drove with both hands gripped on the steering wheel, his knuckles white. When we got home, he went straight to the garage and didn't come out for 3 hours. I found him sitting on the concrete floor, his back against his workbench. My dad always talked about carrying on the family name, he said quietly. When I was a kid, he'd say, "One day you'll have a son, and you'll understand." I used to imagine teaching my son to throw a baseball, or my daughter, I don't know, stupid things. They're not stupid. I sat down next to him. And we can still have kids, Dr. Parker said, with another man's sperm. His voice was flat. With a donor's sperm. It's different. He looked at me then, and I saw something I'd never seen in David before. Shame. Do we have to tell people? About what? About this. About me being infertile. You can say it. He flinched. Your parents. My parents. Do we have to tell them? I understood then what he was really asking. In David's world, in my parents' world, masculinity was measured in legacy and biological continuation. To admit he couldn't father children would mean admitting a fundamental failure. We don't have to tell anyone anything, I said. And so we didn't. The first 6 months after the diagnosis were the hardest. David threw himself into work, staying late at the office, volunteering for projects in other cities. Anything to avoid the conversation we needed to have about our future. I gave him space. I researched on my own. I read forums where other women talked about their experiences with donor sperm, with adoption, with choosing to be child-free. I bookmarked fertility clinic websites. I didn't push. Then, about 8 months after the diagnosis, David came home one night with a folder. "I've been thinking," he said, "about what Dr. Parker said. About donor sperm." We started seeing Dr. Parker again. We reviewed donor profiles, pages and pages of anonymous men reduced to statistics: height, weight, eye color, SAT scores, medical history. It felt surreal, shopping for genetic material like we were picking out paint colors for a nursery. David struggled with it. Some nights I'd find him staring at the profiles with this look on his face, like he was mourning something that never existed. "We don't have to do this," I told him more than once. "We could adopt, or we could just not have kids." "I want kids," he said. "I want our kids, or as close as we can get." 6 months before he died, we finally made our decision. Donor number 847, 6'1", brown hair, hazel eyes, degree in engineering, no family history of genetic disorders. David looked at his profile for a long time. "He looks like my brother," he said finally. "Around the eyes." We scheduled the procedure. Dr. Parker wanted to start the process in April. Hormone treatments, monitoring, timing everything perfectly. But David asked if we could wait until after his big product launch at work in late May. He wanted to be present, not stressed and distracted. "June then," Dr. Parker had said. "We'll start your cycle in June. By July, with luck, we'll have good news." David died 3 weeks before we were supposed to start. I found myself alone with a secret I never asked for. The donor sperm was still in storage at the clinic, paid for but unused. The medical records were still in my nightstand, and everyone still thought David and I had just been waiting for the right time. At the funeral, my mother hugged me tight and whispered, "At least you're young enough to start over. You can still have children with someone else." I didn't tell her that I'd never have children with David, that the future we'd planned was saved in a medical freezer somewhere, waiting for a procedure that would never happen. The inheritance was substantial. David had been methodical about money, life insurance, retirement accounts, the condo we'd bought together in Newton. Everything went to me. His will was clear. "To my beloved wife Emma, I leave everything." The condo alone was worth $400,000. Add in his life insurance, his 401k, his savings, I was looking at close to $750,000. It was more money than I'd ever imagined having. My parents helped me sort through the paperwork. My father, a retired accountant, took a strange pride in organizing David's financial legacy. My mother kept asking if I was going to be okay financially. I'm fine, Mom. David made sure I'd be taken care of. Well, you could move back home for a while, save money on rent. We have that spare bedroom. I'm keeping the condo. I needed to stay in the space David and I had shared. Needed to wake up in our bed, make coffee in our kitchen, water the plants he'd insisted on buying, even though I'd told him I'd kill them. They were still alive somehow. Thriving, even. David would have been proud. I took a leave of absence from work. My boss, Catherine Wilson, was understanding. Take all the time you need, Emma. We'll be here when you're ready. I spent my days in a fog. I joined a grief support group at the community center. That's where I met Maria Thompson, who'd lost her husband 2 years earlier. It gets easier, she told me over terrible coffee from the church basement. Not better, just easier. You'll learn to carry it. I wasn't sure I believed her. After 3 months, I went back to work part-time. I needed the structure, the distraction. Catherine was pleased to have me back. My parents called it getting back to normal. There was no normal. There was just after. Part of my after routine included weekly dinners at my parents' house. My mother would make pot roast or chicken casserole, the same rotation of meals she'd been making my whole life. My father would ask about work. I'd give vague answers. We'd eat in a companionable silence that felt more like avoidance. Then, 4 months after David's death, Ashley started showing up to these dinners again. My sister had never been reliable. She'd skip family events for parties, show up late to Christmas, forget birthdays. But suddenly she was there every Sunday, sitting in her old seat at the dining room table. Ashley's going through some things, my mother said vaguely when I asked. She needs family right now. I noticed she'd gained weight. Her face was fuller, her usual crop tops replaced with flowing bohemian dresses. She'd always been tiny, size 2, proud of it, constantly posting gym selfies. But now there was a roundness to her that makeup and strategic clothing couldn't hide. You look different, I said one Sunday, helping her clear plates. It's called self-love, Emma. Not all of us are obsessed with being skinny. But it wasn't about weight. There was something else, a secret behind her eyes. Then, 6 months after David's funeral, on a Sunday in late October, Ashley showed up to dinner with an unmistakable baby bump under her maxi dress. My mother practically shrieked. Ashley, are you pregnant? Ashley smiled, one hand on her belly. 7 months. 7 months. I did the math quickly. That meant she'd conceived in March, 2 months before David died. My mother was already in full grandmother mode, fluttering around Ashley, insisting she sit down, asking about doctor's appointments and due dates. My father looked shell-shocked. Who's the father? Ashley's smile faltered. That's complicated. Complicated? My father's voice rose. What does that mean? Robert, not now, my mother cut in. This is a happy occasion. We're going to have a grandbaby. I watched my sister's performance from the kitchen doorway. The way she ducked her head, playing shy. The way she put her hand protectively over her stomach. The way she avoided answering direct questions. I recognized the tactics. Ashley had been manipulating our parents her whole life. Tears when she needed money. Silence when she'd made a mistake. Deflection when confronted. Whatever this was, it wasn't the whole truth. After dinner, as I was leaving, Ashley caught my arm. Emma, can we talk? Just us? I looked at her, really looked at her. Despite the pregnancy glow everyone kept commenting on, there was something desperate in her eyes. Sure, I said slowly. Not here. Can we get coffee tomorrow? There's something I need to tell you, something important. Every instinct told me to say no. But she was my sister. And despite everything, despite the years of being second best in our parents' eyes, despite the resentment I'd never quite shaken, she was still my sister. Okay, I said. Tomorrow, 3 o'clock at Starbucks on Main. She hugged me then, quick and tight. Thank you, Emma. You're really good. You know that? You've always been the good one. I drove home with those words echoing in my head. The good one, the responsible one, the one who did everything right, and still ended up a widow at 32. I didn't know it then, but that coffee date would be the moment everything changed. The Starbucks on Main Street was crowded for a Monday afternoon. College students hunched over laptops, young mothers with strollers navigating between tables, the espresso machine hissing and grinding in an endless loop. Ashley was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth, her hands wrapped around a cup of herbal tea. She'd dressed carefully, a soft pink sweater that highlighted her pregnancy glow, her hair in loose waves, minimal makeup that somehow made her look younger and more vulnerable. I ordered a black coffee and slid into the seat across from her. Thanks for coming, she said, not meeting my eyes. You said it was important. She nodded, staring into her tea like it held answers. For a long moment, she didn't speak. I watched her bite her lip, watched her hands tremble slightly. Ashley, what's going on? When she looked up, there were tears in her eyes. Real tears, not the crocodile tears she used to deploy when she wanted something from our parents. I don't know how to say this, she whispered. Just say it. She took a shaky breath. The baby, the father, it's... God, Emma, I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. What are you talking about? It was David. For a moment, I couldn't process the words. They were sounds without meaning, syllables that couldn't possibly form the sentence I'd just heard. What? David is the father, was the father. Her voice broke. Emma, I'm so sorry. I set my coffee down, my hands suddenly ice cold. That's not possible. I know how it sounds. No. My voice came out sharper than I intended. Several people at nearby tables glanced over. I lowered my voice but kept it firm. David would never do that. Never. We didn't mean for it to happen. When? I demanded. When did this supposedly happen? At Mom and Dad's anniversary party, in May. You'd gone upstairs with a migraine. David and I were cleaning up and we'd both been drinking and we just talked about feeling stuck, about life, and then it just happened. I stared at her. The party had been May 7th. She was 7 months pregnant now in late October. That meant conception in late March or early April. You're lying, Ashley flinched. Emma, the math doesn't work. If you're 7 months pregnant now, you conceived in March or early April. Mom and Dad's party was May 7th. That's more than a month off. The doctors said the dates might be wrong. Babies don't always... Stop. I stood up. David would never cheat on me. Especially not with you. I don't know what game you're playing, but I'm not interested. Emma, please. Ashley was crying harder now, reaching for my hand across the table. I have proof. I have messages from him. I know you don't want to believe it, but show me then. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands, scrolled for a moment, then showed me screenshots. A text conversation with someone labeled David M. Can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you again? Last night was amazing. I looked at the messages. They were vague, no dates, no specific details, no context. These could be from anyone, I said. There's nothing here that proves anything. Why would I lie about this? I don't know, Ashley. You tell me. I grabbed my purse. But David didn't cheat on me, and he sure as hell didn't father your baby. How can you be so sure? The question hung in the air. I could tell her. I could say it right now. Because David was infertile. Because we were planning IVF. Because it's medically impossible. But those were David's secrets. His shame. His private pain. Even dead, he deserved that privacy. Because I know my husband, I said instead. And you're going to need a lot more than some vague text messages and a made-up timeline to convince anyone otherwise. I walked out before she could say anything else. In my car, I sat gripping the steering wheel, my mind racing. Ashley was lying. I knew that with absolute certainty. David couldn't have fathered her child. It was medically impossible. But she didn't know I knew that. She thought her lie was safe, protected by David's death and the cremation that made DNA testing from him impossible. The question was, what did I do about it? If I exposed her lie, I'd have to reveal David's infertility. I'd have to admit to my family that we'd lied for 18 months, that we'd been planning to use donor sperm, that David had been too ashamed to tell anyone. My mother would be devastated. Not because of the infertility itself, but because we hadn't trusted her enough to share it. She'd make it about her, about how we must have thought she'd judge us. My father would be quietly disappointed. Another failure to add to the Mitchell name. And David's memory. God, David had been so ashamed. He'd made me promise never to tell anyone. But if I stayed silent, Ashley would get away with it. She'd claim David's child. She'd rewrite history. She'd probably ask for money, for help, for a share of his inheritance. I drove home in a daze. Inside my condo, I went straight to the nightstand drawer and pulled out the folder I'd been avoiding for months. David's medical records from Dr. Parker. The diagnosis in clinical black and white. Complete azoospermia, 0 sperm count, natural conception, not possible. I stared at the papers for a long time. Then I put them back and closed the drawer. I needed to think. For 3 days, I didn't hear from Ashley. No calls, no texts, no attempts to continue the conversation. Then, on Thursday evening, my mother called. "Emma, honey, can you and I have lunch tomorrow? Just the two of us?" Her tone was careful. Too careful. "What's this about, Mom?" "I'd rather talk in person. Please? It's important." We met at a restaurant downtown. My mother was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, her hands folded on the napkin in front of her. "Thanks for coming," she said as I sat down. "What's going on?" She took a deep breath. "Ashley came to see me. She told me something difficult. About David." So Ashley had told her. Of course she had. "What did she tell you?" "That David was the father of her baby." My mother's eyes were red like she'd been crying. "Emma, honey, I know this must be devastating. I can't imagine what you're feeling. Did she show you proof?" "She showed me text messages. Messages between her and David that were, well, they seemed genuine. They're vague. They could be from anyone. Why would she lie about something like this?" "I don't know, Mom. Why don't you ask her?" My mother reached across the table to take my hand. "Sweetheart, I know you're hurt. I know you want to believe David would never do this. But Ashley is pregnant. She says David is the father, and she needs help." "She needs help," I repeated flatly. "She's scared. She's lost her job. Her apartment lease is ending. She has no health insurance. She's carrying David's child, and she has nowhere to go. So she wants money. She needs family support. That baby is David's daughter, your husband's child." "We don't know that." "The timeline fits. The messages exist. Emma, I understand this is painful, but we have to think about that baby." I pulled my hand back. "Has it occurred to you or Dad to ask Ashley to prove any of this, to verify her story before you just accept it?" My mother looked hurt. "She's your sister. She wouldn't lie about something this serious." "Really? Have you forgotten all the times Ashley has lied? All the times she's manipulated you for money or attention or to get out of trouble?" "That was different. This is about a baby." "Exactly. This is about a baby and potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in inheritance. That's a pretty good motivation to lie." My mother's expression hardened. "I didn't call you here to fight. I called because I want you to think about doing the right thing. If that baby is David's, then Ashley needs to prove it." "How?" "David was cremated. There's no way to do a DNA test." I almost told her then. Almost said, "Actually, there is a way. You could test against David's parents. But that would lead to questions I wasn't ready to answer. Then I guess we're at an impasse, I said instead. Ashley makes a claim with no proof. I don't believe her. End of story. Emma? I'm not giving her money, Mom. I'm not pretending her baby is David's. And I'm not going to let her manipulate you into pressuring me. I stood up. Sit down, my mother said sharply. We're not finished. Yes, we are. I left before she could say anything else. Over the next 2 weeks, the pressure campaign escalated. My mother called every other day. Just think about it. She's your sister. What would David want? My father called once, his voice measured and careful. Your mother is upset. She thinks you're being unreasonable. Are you sure there's nothing more to this? Nothing you're not telling us? I'm sure, I lied. Ashley sent long text messages. Emotional, pleading, desperate. I know you hate me. I hate myself. But please, Emma, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. This baby is innocent. She deserves to know her father's family. I can't do this alone. I lost my job. I'm living with Mom and Dad, but I can't stay there forever. I need help. Please. You have everything David left. I'm not asking for much. Just enough to get on my feet, for his daughter. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I did what I should have done from the beginning. I investigated. I pulled up David's phone records from our shared iCloud account, scrolled through every text message from the last year of his life. There were messages to Ashley, birthday wishes. Thanks for the Christmas gift. Good luck with your new job hunt. Normal sibling-in-law stuff. Nothing flirty, nothing secretive, certainly nothing that suggested an affair. Then I looked at his calendar. David had been meticulous about scheduling. Work meetings, gym sessions, dinners with me, calls with his mother. I traced through every day in March and April. Every evening was accounted for. Work dinners with colleagues I could verify. Nights at home with me, watching TV. 2 business trips, one to Chicago from March 10th to 15th, one to Atlanta from April 20th to 25th, with hotel receipts and flight confirmations to prove it. There was no gap, no unexplained absence, no window for a secret affair with Ashley. Next, I turned to Ashley's social media. She was an oversharer, posting constantly on Instagram. I scrolled back to March and April. March 15th, photo at a club downtown called Havana Club. Ashley in a tight silver dress draped over a tall guy with dark hair and sleeve tattoos. The caption, Dancing the Night Away. March 22nd, birthday bash. 26 never looked so good. Multiple photos from what looked like a wild party at someone's house. Ashley doing shots, dancing, posing with different guys. April 5th, girls' night out. Photo from a bar. Ashley and her friends, clearly drunk. A guy's arm visible around her waist at the edge of the frame. April 18th. Sometimes you just need to let loose. Photo from a nightclub. Ashley dancing close with a bearded guy wearing glasses. I did a reverse image search on some of the photos. Found a few tagged by other people. Read the comments. You and Jake look so cute together. Another Tinder date? Girl, you're on fire. Is this the guy from last week or a new one? Jake. Tinder. Multiple guys. This was not a woman in a secret, tormented affair with her brother-in-law. This was a woman living her normal, chaotic life, partying every weekend, posting it all publicly. And then the posts stopped. Late April. Nothing. May. One generic post about spring flowers. June through October. Complete silence. I knew why. She'd found out she was pregnant, and she didn't know which of her casual hookups was the father. I sat back, my laptop screen glowing in the dark living room. Ashley had gotten pregnant from one of her random hookups in March. When David died in May, she saw an opportunity. A dead man who couldn't deny anything. A wealthy widow who might be manipulated into sharing the inheritance. A family who'd always protected and enabled her. It was almost perfect. Except she didn't know that I knew David was infertile. The question was, how did I prove it? I sat at my dining room table staring at my laptop screen, at Ashley's Instagram posts from March and April. The photos told a story, but they weren't proof. Not the kind of proof that would stand up to my parents' denial or Ashley's tears. I needed more. The next morning, I called a number my lawyer had given me once for a corporate case. Mitchell Investigations. Gary Mitchell speaking. Mr. Mitchell, my name is Emma Mitchell, no relation, I assume. I need someone investigated, discreetly. I can do discreet. What's the situation? My sister is claiming my late husband fathered her baby. I know she's lying, but I need proof. A pause. Family cases get messy. I know. What kind of proof are we talking about? She got pregnant around mid-March. She was going to clubs, meeting random guys, posting about it on Instagram. I need you to identify who she was with during that time period. Names, evidence of relationships, anything that proves she was sleeping around. Instagram posts are a start, but they're public. You need me for something more? I need you to find the guys, talk to them if possible, get statements. I need evidence strong enough that even my parents can't deny it. My rate is $200 an hour plus expenses. This kind of work, tracking down random hookups from 7 months ago, it's not going to be quick. We're probably looking at 40 to 50 hours minimum. Money's not an issue. How fast can you start? I can start tonight. But Mrs. Mitchell, Emma, before you commit to this, I have to ask, are you sure you want to go down this road? Once I find proof, once you use it, there's no going back. Your family relationships will change permanently. I thought about David, about the shame he'd carried, about the secret we'd kept, about Ashley trying to steal his legacy with a lie. I'm sure. Okay then. I'll need access to your sister's social media profiles, any information you have about her habits, the clubs she frequents, that kind of thing. I'll send over a contract and get started. 5 days later, Gary called. I've got something. Can we meet? We met at a diner in Waltham, far enough from Newton that I wouldn't run into anyone I knew. Gary was in his 50s, graying hair, the kind of face that blended into crowds, perfect for surveillance work. He slid a manila envelope across the table. Your sister's been busy, he said. I opened the envelope. Inside were dozens of photos. Some I recognized from Instagram, others I didn't. Each one was time-stamped and labeled with a location. The first photo, Ashley outside Havana Club, March 15th, 9:47 p.m. She was in that silver dress, her arm around the tall guy with sleeve tattoos. They were kissing. That's Jake Patterson, Gary said. 24, works as a bartender at the Whiskey Room downtown. I found him through the Instagram tags. A friend of your sister's tagged him in a comment. Jake and Ashley burning up the dance floor. The second photo, Ashley leaving a bar with a different guy. March 22nd, 11:23 p.m. Blonde, preppy-looking fraternity type. His hand was on her lower back. Brad Morrison, law student at BU, met your sister on Tinder. They matched 3 times over 2 months. She kept unmatching and rematching him. More photos. Different dates, different guys. Ashley at house parties, at bars, at clubs, always with someone different. How did you get all this? I asked. Some of it's from her public Instagram before she deleted the posts. I pulled cached versions. Some of it's from security cameras outside the clubs. I have contacts who can access footage for the right price. And some of it's from the guys themselves. You talked to them? 3 of them. Jake Patterson, Brad Morrison, and a guy named Tyler Chen, the one with the beard and glasses from April. Want to hear what they said? I nodded. Gary pulled out his phone, scrolled to his notes. Jake was the most helpful. He remembered your sister clearly, said they met at Havana Club on March 15th, hooked up that night. Saw her there again on March 18th and March 22nd. Her birthday. They slept together at least twice, maybe 3 times. He thought they had something going, but she ghosted him after mid-April. Did he know she was pregnant? No. When I told him someone was claiming he might be the father, he freaked out, said they used protection, but Gary shrugged. Protection fails. What about the others? Brad said he met her twice in March. Tyler was mid-April, just once. Both admitted to sleeping with her. Both said she was pretty clear it was casual, no strings, no expectations. I stared at the photos spread across the table. Ashley smiling, carefree, drunk, living her life. Sleeping with strangers whose names she probably barely remembered. There's one more thing, Gary said. He pulled out his phone again, showed me a screenshot. This is from a Tinder profile, your sister's account. Look at the activity log. January through April. The app showed her last activity as April 18th, the same night as that nightclub photo with Tyler. She was swiping right up until mid-April, Gary said. That's not someone in a secret relationship with her brother-in-law. That's someone living the single life pretty aggressively. I closed the envelope. How much do I owe you? Invoice is in there. Came to about 38 hours total. But Mrs. Mitchell, he hesitated. This is going to get ugly when you use this. Your sister isn't going to admit the truth easily. Your parents are going to have to confront some hard realities about their daughter. Are you ready for that? No, I said honestly. But I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. You could let this go. Let your sister have her lie. Keep the peace. And let her steal my husband's legacy? Teach her daughter that lying and manipulation are acceptable? No. David deserves better. That baby deserves better. Gary nodded slowly. Okay then, good luck. Good. You're going to need it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about what Maria had told me weeks ago in the grief support group. It gets easier, not better, just easier. You'll learn to carry it. I hadn't believed her then, but now 6 months after David's death, I understood what she meant. The grief was still there, would always be there, but I'd learned to function around it. To get up in the morning, to go to work, to have conversations that didn't revolve around my loss. But this thing with Ashley, it was bringing everything back. The anger, the sense of unfairness, the protective rage I felt toward David's memory. At 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep and called Maria. She answered on the third ring, her voice groggy. Emma? What's wrong? I'm sorry, I know it's late, I need to talk to someone. Give me 5 minutes to make coffee. Come over. An hour later, I was sitting in Maria's living room, the photos from Gary's investigation spread across her coffee table. She studied them quietly, occasionally glancing up at me. Your sister's quite something, she said finally. She's trying to scam me, claim my husband fathered her baby so she can get his inheritance. But you know he didn't. David was infertile, completely. We'd been planning to use donor sperm, but he died before we could. It was still strange saying it out loud, but also liberating, a secret that had weighed on me for 18 months, finally spoken. Maria nodded slowly. And if you expose your sister's lie, you have to expose his secret. He was so ashamed, he made me promise never to tell anyone. Honey, he's gone. You're not. I know, but nothing. This isn't about protecting a dead man's pride. This is about protecting yourself from someone who's actively trying to rob you, who's lying about your husband and destroying his memory in the process. I felt tears prick my eyes. My parents are going to hate me. Maybe. Or maybe they'll finally see who Ashley really is. Maria leaned forward. My husband Tom had secrets too. Medical stuff he didn't want people knowing. When he died, I found out he'd been lying to me about his medication, about his doctor's appointments. He was embarrassed, didn't want me to worry. What did you do? I told the truth. At his funeral, when people asked how he died, I told them, heart attack, brought on by uncontrolled diabetes that he'd been hiding for years. Some people judged him. Some people judged me for speaking ill of the dead. But you know what? It freed me. I didn't have to carry his shame anymore. She reached across and squeezed my hand. You're not betraying David by telling the truth. You're surviving him. There's a difference. The next morning, I received a text from my mother. Ashley is planning a baby shower on November 15th at our house. I really hope you'll come. It would mean so much to her. To all of us. I stared at the message for a long time. A baby shower. A celebration. A public event where Ashley would be surrounded by friends and family, basking in attention, playing the single mother-to-be who'd been abandoned by her dead lover. I could skip it. Stay home. Avoid the drama. Or, I opened my laptop and looked up Dr. Parker's office number. Parker Fertility Clinic, how may I help you? Hi, this is Emma Mitchell. I'm a patient of Dr. Parker's. My husband, David Mitchell, passed away earlier this year. I need to request copies of his medical records for legal purposes. Of course, Mrs. Mitchell. I'm so sorry for your loss. We'll need you to fill out a release form and provide a copy of the death certificate. How soon do you need these? As soon as possible. We can have everything ready by the end of the week. Would you also like us to mail them? Or would you prefer to pick them up? I'll pick them up. And I need one more thing. Would it be possible for Dr. Parker to write a formal letter? A statement about David's condition that could be presented as evidence if necessary? A pause. Let me check with Dr. Parker. Can you hold? 2 minutes of elevator music. Mrs. Mitchell? Dr. Parker says she can do that. She'll need to know what specifically you need the letter to state. Just the diagnosis. That David had azoospermia, that natural conception was medically impossible, and that we were patients at the clinic planning to do IVF with donor sperm. Understood. She can have that ready by Friday as well. Thank you. I hung up and stared at my phone. This was it. The point of no return. If I did this, I'd have to stand in front of my family and admit we'd lied for 18 months. I'd have to watch my mother's face crumble when she realized David had been infertile. I'd have to hear my father's disappointment. I'd have to see the judgment in my aunt's eyes, the gossip that would follow. But if I didn't, Ashley would win. She'd claim David's legacy. She'd tell her daughter that her father was a man who'd cheated on his wife. She'd rewrite history to suit her lies. I thought about David, about the man who'd sat in our garage crying because he couldn't give me children, about the hours we'd spent reviewing donor profiles, trying to find someone who looked like his brother, about the hope in his eyes when we'd scheduled that IVF procedure for June. David had wanted kids, had dreamed of them, and Ashley was trying to give him a child he never fathered, to trap me with a legacy that was fiction. I couldn't let that happen. I picked up my phone and texted my mother back. I'll be there. Friday came. I drove to the Parker Fertility Clinic and picked up a sealed envelope containing both David's full medical records and a letter from Dr. Parker on official letterhead. To whom it may concern. This letter is to confirm that David Mitchell, D.O.B., June 15, 1990, was diagnosed with complete azoospermia, 0 sperm count, in October 2023. This condition was determined to be congenital and permanent. Natural conception was medically impossible. Mr. Mitchell and his wife Emma Mitchell were patients at Parker Fertility Clinic from October 2023 until Mr. Mitchell's death in May 2025. They were pursuing IVF treatment with donor sperm at the time of his passing. The procedure was scheduled to begin in June 2025. This information is provided at Mrs. Emma Mitchell's request for legal purposes. Sincerely, Dr. Jennifer Parker, M.D. Board Certified Reproductive Endocrinologist. I sat in my car in the clinic parking lot, holding the letter. This was the proof. The weapon that would end Ashley's scheme and shatter the secret David and I had kept for 18 months. I thought about David one more time, tried to imagine what he would want me to do. But I realized I'd been asking the wrong question. It didn't matter what David would want. David was dead. His shame was dead with him. I was alive. And I had a choice. Protect a dead man's pride, or protect my own future. I chose myself. That night, I made copies of everything: the medical records, Dr. Parker's letter, Gary's investigation report with all the photos and statements. I put them all in a professional looking folder. Then I picked out my outfit for the baby shower: a simple black dress, pearl earrings David had given me for our anniversary, low heels. I wanted to look composed, professional, unshakable. Sunday, November 15th. 1 week away. Maria called that evening. You doing okay? I'm terrified. That's normal. You're about to blow up your family. Yeah. Emma, listen to me. Whatever happens at that baby shower, you're doing the right thing. You know that, right? I hope so. I know so. And call me after. I'll be here. Sunday morning, November 15th. I woke up early, made coffee, stood in the shower until the water ran cold, put on my black dress, did my makeup carefully, waterproof mascara, just in case. At 1:30 p.m., I got in my car with the folder on the passenger seat. The drive to my parents' house took 20 minutes. 20 minutes to rehearse what I would say. 20 minutes to second-guess my decision. 20 minutes to think about all the ways this could go wrong. At 1:50, I pulled up outside my parents' house. Cars lined the street. Ashley had invited at least 30 people. Balloons decorated the front porch. Pink and silver, cheerful and innocent. I could hear laughter and conversation from inside. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel. Then I picked up the folder, took a deep breath, and walked toward the house. My mother answered the door, her face lighting up when she saw me. Emma, you came! She pulled me into a hug that smelled like her usual perfume, something floral and expensive. I'm so glad you're here. This means everything to Ashley. I doubted that, but I smiled and stepped inside. The house had been transformed. Pink and silver streamers hung from every doorway. A banner over the fireplace read, "Welcome, baby girl," in glittery letters. Tables were covered with pastel tablecloths, loaded with finger sandwiches, fruit platters, and an elaborate three-tier cake decorated with fondant baby booties. The living room was packed. I recognized my Aunt Margaret and her daughters by the punch bowl. My mother's bridge club friends occupied the couch. Several women I didn't know, probably Ashley's friends, were taking selfies in front of a backdrop decorated with paper flowers. And there, in the center of it all, sat Ashley. She was in the wingback chair, the best seat in the room, glowing in a flowing pink dress. Her hair was styled in perfect waves, her makeup immaculate. One hand rested on her belly in that protective gesture pregnant women do. When she saw me, genuine surprise crossed her face, followed by relief. Emma! She stood awkwardly and came over. You came. I didn't think. After everything. She hugged me. I let her, feeling the baby bump press against me. The baby was real. That part wasn't a lie. I wouldn't miss it, I said quietly. Thank you. Ashley's eyes were damp. This means so much. I know things have been hard between us, but I really want to fix that, for the baby's sake. My mother was beaming, clearly thrilled that we were speaking. Come, Emma, sit down. Would you like some punch? I'm fine standing. For the next 45 minutes, I watched Ashley's baby shower unfold like any normal celebration. Guests played games, guess the baby food flavor, measure Ashley's belly with ribbon, baby word scramble. Ashley opened gifts, cooing over onesies and blankets and stuffed animals. You're all so generous, she said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. This baby is going to be so loved. My mother kept glancing at me, making sure I was okay, probably hoping I'd join in the festivities. I stayed near the back, the folder tucked under my arm. My father stood in the corner looking uncomfortable, the only man in a sea of women and baby talk. He caught my eye once, gave me a small nod. After the gifts were opened and the cake was cut, my mother stood up and tapped a fork against her glass. Everyone, I just want to say a few words. The room quieted. Today is a celebration of new life and new beginnings. 6 months ago, our family went through a terrible loss when we lost David. Several people murmured sympathetically, glancing at me. But life has a way of bringing blessings even in the darkest times. Soon, Ashley will welcome a beautiful baby girl into this world, and we're all here to support her on this journey. The room erupted in applause. This was it. This was my moment. I stepped forward into the center of the room. Actually, before we continue, I'd like to say something. My mother looked surprised but pleased. Of course, Emma. Please. Everyone turned to look at me, 30 pairs of eyes. Ashley's smile faltered slightly, uncertainty creeping in. I opened my folder. Ashley, I need to ask you something. You told me and our parents that David was the father of your baby. Is that correct? The room went silent. Several guests looked uncomfortable. Clearly, they'd heard rumors but weren't sure of the details. Ashley's hand went to her belly. Emma, we don't need to do this here. Yes, we do. Because this is the story you've been telling everyone. That my late husband, who died 6 months ago, fathered your child. That he cheated on me with you. That this baby deserves part of his inheritance. My mother stood up. Emma, this isn't appropriate. Let her finish, my father said quietly. Ashley was shaking her head. I never said he cheated. We made a mistake one time, and I've been honest about. You told me it happened at Mom and Dad's anniversary party in May. Is that right? Yes, May 7th. And you're 7 months pregnant now, which means you conceived around late March or early April. Murmurs rippled through the room. The timeline was confusing, Ashley said quickly. The doctors adjusted my due date. Ashley, stop. My voice was steady, calm. I know you're lying. I've always known. You're in denial. I know you're lying because David couldn't father children. The room went completely still. Ashley's face went pale. That's not. David never said. David was diagnosed with complete azoospermia 18 months before he died. I pulled out Dr. Parker's letter. This is from his fertility specialist. It states clearly that David had 0 sperm count. That natural conception was medically impossible. That we were planning to do IVF with donor sperm, but he died before we could. I held up the letter so everyone could see the official letterhead. Emma, why wouldn't you tell us? My mother whispered. Because David was ashamed. He didn't want anyone to know. He was afraid of being judged, of being seen as less than a man. My voice cracked slightly. And he was right to be afraid, wasn't he? Look at how you're all staring at me right now. I turned back to Ashley. David couldn't father your child, which means you've been lying about him. Lying to me, to our parents, to everyone here. Those medical records could be fake. They're not, and I have more. I pulled out the photos, started laying them on the coffee table, one by one. March 15th, you at Havana Club with Jake Patterson. According to him, you slept together that night and at least twice more that month. Ashley's eyes went wide. March 22nd, your birthday party. Multiple men. Your friends tagged them in comments. Brad Morrison, Tyler Chen, you met them on Tinder. I kept pulling out photos. The room was utterly silent except for the sound of paper on wood. April 5th, another bar, another man. April 18th, your last activity on Tinder. You were swiping right up until mid-April, Ashley. That's not someone in a secret relationship with her brother-in-law. That's someone living the single life. I looked up at her. You got pregnant from one of your hookups in March. You didn't know who the father was. And when David died in May, you saw an opportunity. A dead man who couldn't deny your story. A grieving widow who might be manipulated into sharing his inheritance. That's not true. Ashley's voice was shrill. You hired someone to fake these photos to... They're from your own Instagram, Ashley. You posted them yourself. You deleted them in late April when you found out you were pregnant. But I have the cached versions. And I have statements from the men you slept with. My mother picked up one of the photos with trembling hands, the one of Ashley draped over Jake Patterson, clearly drunk, clearly intimate. Ashley, my father's voice was quiet but dangerous. Is this true? Ashley was crying now, mascara running, the carefully constructed facade crumbling. I I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I lost my job. I had no money. I was pregnant and alone. So you lied about David? My voice rose despite my effort to stay calm. You accused a dead man of cheating on his wife? You dragged his name through the mud? You tried to make his memory about an affair that never happened? I needed help. I didn't have anyone. Ashley was sobbing now, her hands shaking. You have everything, Emma. David left you everything. The condo, the money, everything. Is it so wrong that I wanted my baby to have something? That I wanted help? It's wrong that you lied. It's wrong that you tried to steal from me by claiming a baby that isn't David's. It's wrong that you made our parents pressure me based on a complete fabrication. I turned to my parents. Did you ever question her? Did you ever ask for proof beyond some vague text messages? Did you even consider that Ashley might be lying? My mother was crying quietly. My father looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. My mother's voice was barely a whisper. We thought family doesn't lie about something like this. Ashley has lied her entire life. About jobs, about money, about boyfriends, about everything. Why would this be different? My Aunt Margaret stood up, gathering her purse. I think we should go. Several other guests were already moving toward the door, murmuring apologies, clearly uncomfortable with the family drama unfolding in front of them. Within 5 minutes, half the room had cleared. Ashley was still sobbing in the wingback chair, her pink dress wrinkled, her perfect hair falling out of its waves. She looked young suddenly, vulnerable, lost. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. For what it's worth, I said quietly, David and I were going to do IVF with donor sperm. We were going to raise a child that wasn't genetically his, and love it just as much. Because family isn't about DNA, it's about choice, and commitment, and honesty. I looked at my parents. You chose to believe Ashley over me. You chose to pressure me to give up David's inheritance based on lies. You chose to protect her instead of asking the hard questions. We didn't know, my mother whispered. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. I gathered the photos and documents back into my folder. Ashley, I hope you figure out who the real father is. That baby deserves to know the truth. And I hope you're a good mother to her. She deserves better than the choices you've made. I turned to leave. Emma, wait. My father's voice stopped me. What happens now? That's up to you. But I'm done. Ashley's baby isn't my responsibility. Her lies aren't my problem. And I'm not giving her a penny of David's inheritance. But the baby? Isn't David's. I have medical records that prove it. If Ashley tries to make any legal claim to his estate, I'll present these documents in court, and she'll lose. She might even face fraud charges for the fake text messages and false paternity claim. The threat hung in the air. Ashley looked up, her face blotchy and wet. You'd do that? You'd have me arrested? I don't want to, but I will if you force me to. This ends here, Ashley. No more lies, no more manipulation, no more using David's death for your own benefit. I walked to the door, then turned back one more time. I loved David. Knowing he couldn't give me biological children didn't change that. I would have raised a donor baby with him and loved it fiercely. But I don't get to do that now because he's dead. And you tried to use his death, his memory, his legacy, to scam me. My voice broke. That's unforgivable. I left before anyone could respond. Outside, the November air was cold and sharp. I got in my car, closed the door, and sat in the silence. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. But underneath the adrenaline, underneath the pain and anger and grief, there was something else. Relief. I'd told the truth. I'd protected David's legacy. I'd stood up for myself. It didn't feel good exactly, but it felt right. I pulled out my phone and called Maria. "How did it go?" she asked immediately. "It's done." "Are you okay?" I thought about that. Was I okay? I'd just blown up my family, exposed my husband's deepest secret to 30 witnesses, accused my sister of fraud in front of her friends. My parents were probably in shock. Ashley was probably still crying, but David's name was cleared. His memory was protected, and I'd stood up for myself for the first time in months. "Yeah," I said finally. "I think I am. Come over. I'll make tea. Give me 20 minutes." I started the car and drove away from my parents' house, away from the pink balloons and the shattered illusions and the family I wasn't sure I recognized anymore. Toward Maria's house, toward the friend who understood loss and survival, toward whatever came next. Occasional dinners. Jake was trying. He came over 3 times a week, brought diapers and formula, learned how to change diapers and give bottles. He was awkward but determined, a young man who hadn't expected to be a father but wasn't going to run away from his responsibility. Ashley got a part-time remote job doing graphic design. She lived in my parents' spare bedroom with Sophia. She posted occasionally on Instagram, photos of Sophia with captions about blessed and new beginnings and learning to be better. I didn't follow her, but my mother showed me photos sometimes. I'd look politely and say nothing. Spring came. I went back to work full-time. Catherine promoted me to senior director. I threw myself into campaigns and client meetings and strategy sessions. "You're different," Catherine said one day over lunch. "Sharper, more confident." "I stopped caring what people think," I said. "It suits you." I started going to therapy, not the grief support group, but actual one-on-one sessions with Dr. Rachel Morrison, who had kind eyes and didn't let me get away with deflection. "Tell me about David," she said in our third session. "I've told you. He died. Car accident." "Tell me about what you lost when he died." I thought about that. I lost the future we planned. The kids we'd have with donor sperm. The person I thought he was versus the person he actually was. Someone who kept secrets because he was ashamed. Does that make you angry? Sometimes. Mostly it makes me sad. We could have talked more, been more honest with each other. But we were both scared. Dr. Morrison leaned forward. You can love someone and be angry at them. You can grieve them and resent them. Those things can coexist. It was the permission I didn't know I needed. 8 months after the baby shower, my parents invited me to Sunday dinner. "Just us," my father promised. "Ashley won't be there. She and Jake are trying to get their own place." I went. The pot roast was the same as always. The dining room looked the same, but something was different. My mother asked about my work and actually listened to my answer. My father told me about a documentary he'd watched. We talked about the weather, about the Red Sox, about a new bakery opening downtown. We didn't talk about Ashley. We didn't talk about David. We didn't talk about the baby shower. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was a start. As I was leaving, my mother hugged me. "I'm trying," she whispered, "to see you. Really see you. Not just as the daughter who has it together, but as a person who's been through hell and survived it." "I know, Mom. I'm trying too." I drove home in the quiet darkness, windows down, letting the spring air wash over me. It wasn't the family I'd imagined having. It wasn't the relationship I'd wanted with my parents. But it was real. And maybe, slowly, it could become something better. The silence after the baby shower was deafening. For 3 days, no one called, no texts, no attempts to reach out. It was as if my entire family had collectively decided to pretend the confrontation hadn't happened. I went to work. I came home. I ate dinner alone in my kitchen, the one I'd shared with David. I watered the plants. I didn't cry. I'd expected to feel guilty, to second-guess my decision, to lie awake replaying the scene wondering if I should have handled it differently, but I didn't. I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying a weight I didn't realize was there, and now it was gone. On the fourth day, my father called. Emma, your mother and I would like to talk. Can we come to your place? His voice was careful, formal, not the tone he usually used with me. Why my place? A pause. Because you were right. We should come to you. They showed up that evening at 6:30, both looking older than I remembered. My mother's eyes were red-rimmed, swollen from days of crying. My father carried himself with the defeated posture of a man who'd realized he'd made a terrible mistake. I let them in, but didn't offer coffee, didn't make small talk. We sat in my living room, the one David and I had furnished together, and nobody spoke for a long moment. Finally, my mother broke the silence. We owe you an apology. I waited. We should have believed you. Her voice cracked. Should have questioned Ashley's story instead of just accepting it. We've always protected her, made excuses for her, and we failed you in the process. Yes, you did. My bluntness made her flinch, but I wasn't going to make this easy. They'd spent weeks pressuring me, calling me heartless, choosing Ashley over me. They needed to sit with that. My father cleared his throat. Why didn't you tell us about David, about his condition? I told you at the baby shower. He was ashamed. He was afraid of being judged. We would have understood. Would you have? I looked at my mother. You spent 5 years asking when we were going to give you grandchildren. Every family dinner, every holiday. Your biological clock is ticking, Emma. Ashley's not marriage material. You're our hope. How do you think David felt hearing that, knowing he couldn't give you what you wanted? My mother's hand went to her mouth. I didn't mean to make him feel, but you did. And that's why we didn't tell you. Because we knew you'd either pity him or make it about your disappointment. We couldn't handle either option. Silence settled over us again. My father stared at his hands. My mother wiped at her eyes. We're your parents, my mother whispered. You should have been able to trust us. And I'm your daughter. You should have trusted me when I said Ashley was lying. I leaned forward. Do you know what that felt like? Having my own parents pressure me to give up my husband's inheritance based on nothing but Ashley's tears and some fake text messages? Having you choose her over me without even questioning her story? We're sorry. My father's voice was rough. I'm a retired accountant. I should have looked at those text messages and seen they proved nothing. I should have demanded real evidence, but Ashley was crying, claiming she was scared and alone. And your mother? He glanced at his wife. We wanted to believe her. Because believing her was easier than admitting your daughter is a manipulative liar. The words hung in the air, harsh but true. My mother started crying again, quietly this time. What can we do? How do we fix this? I don't know if you can fix it, Mom. Not quickly, not easily. I took a deep breath. But here's what I need from you. I need you to stop enabling Ashley. Stop making excuses for her. Stop protecting her from the consequences of her actions. She's still our daughter, and so am I. But for my entire life, you've treated us differently. Ashley got away with everything. I had to be perfect. When she lied, you believed her. When I told the truth, you questioned me. My voice was steady, calm. I'm done with that dynamic. If you want a relationship with me, it has to change. My father nodded slowly. What does that look like? It means when Ashley asks for money, you don't automatically give it to her. It means when she makes excuses, you hold her accountable. It means when she tries to manipulate you, and she will, you recognize it for what it is. That's hard, my mother whispered. Yes, it is. But if you can't do it, then we can't have a relationship, because I won't let you pressure me into cleaning up her messes anymore. What about you? My father asked. What's your relationship with Ashley going to be? Nothing. I don't want to see her. I don't want to hear about her unless it's necessary. And I'm not giving her money. Not now, not ever. But the baby isn't my responsibility. You want to be grandparents? Fine. Help Ashley. Support her. But don't expect me to be involved. My mother looked devastated. She's your niece. She's Ashley's daughter. There's a difference. I softened slightly. I don't wish the baby any harm. I hope Ashley gets her life together and becomes a good mother. But I'm not going to pretend we're one big happy family. We're not. My parents sat with that for a moment. Okay, my father said finally. We understand. And we'll try. To be better. To listen to you. To not automatically take Ashley's side. That's all I'm asking. They stood to leave. At the door, my mother hugged me. Brief and awkward, but genuine. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry we didn't protect you the way we should have. I know, Mom. After they left, I poured myself a glass of wine and called Maria. How'd it go? She asked immediately. I set boundaries. It felt terrible and right at the same time. That's how you know you did it right. Proud of you. I could hear the smile in her voice. 4 weeks later, on a Tuesday morning, my mother sent me a text. Ashley had the baby last night. A girl, 7 pounds, 3 ounces. They named her Sophia. There was a photo attached. A tiny, wrinkled face, dark hair, scrunched up expression. Beautiful in the way all newborns are, full of potential and promise. I looked at the photo for a long time, felt nothing. No anger, no resentment, no desire to meet her. Just nothing. I deleted the photo and went to work. 2 weeks after Sophia's birth, my father called. Jake Patterson took a paternity test. Results came back today. He's the father. Good. That baby deserves to know the truth. Jake's stepping up. He's scared, but he's trying. He's been over every day since Sophia was born, learning how to change diapers, give bottles, all of it. That's good, Dad. Ashley's struggling, but she's trying too. She got a part-time remote job doing graphic design. She's talking about getting her own place eventually. I hope she does. Do you want to? No. Whatever you're about to ask, the answer is no. Silence. Then, okay, I understand. 6 weeks after Sophia's birth, Ashley sent me a text. I'm sorry for everything. I was desperate and scared, and I made terrible choices. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know I regret it, every day. Jake did the DNA test. He's the father. We're trying to figure out co-parenting. It's hard, but I'm trying to be better. For Sophia. I read it 3 times. Thought about responding with all the things I wanted to say, about how sorry wasn't enough, about how she'd tried to destroy David's memory, about how she'd almost succeeded in manipulating me out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Instead, I typed, I hope you're a good mother to Sophia. She deserves better than the choices you made. Ashley didn't respond. I didn't expect her to. Over the next 6 months, I rebuilt my life piece by piece. I went back to work full-time. Catherine promoted me to senior director, with a team of my own and a significant raise. You've earned this, she said when she told me. You're sharper now, more confident. Whatever you went through these past months, it changed you. It did, I agreed. I started going to therapy. Not the grief support group, but real one-on-one sessions with Dr. Rachel Morrison, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and zero tolerance for bullshit. Tell me about David, she said in our 3rd session. He died. Car accident. 6 months ago. Tell me about what you lost when he died. I thought about that. Really thought about it. I lost the future we'd planned, the kids we'd have. Not biological kids, but donor kids. Kids we'd chosen together. I lost the person I thought he was, the person who told me everything. Because he kept secrets about his shame, his fear. And now I'll never know what else he was hiding. Does that make you angry? Sometimes. Mostly it makes me sad. We could have been more honest with each other. But we were both scared of judgment, of not being enough. Dr. Morrison leaned forward. You can love someone and be angry at them. You can grieve them and resent them. Those things can coexist. It was the permission I didn't know I needed. Through my parents, I heard updates about Ashley and Sophia. Jake came over 3 times a week, brought diapers, formula, baby clothes. He was 24, worked nights as a bartender, lived with roommates. Not exactly father of the year material, but he was trying, learning, growing up faster than he'd probably planned. Ashley was trying too. She posted occasionally on Instagram photos of Sophia with captions about blessed and new beginnings and learning every day. I didn't follow her, but my mother showed me photos sometimes when I came for dinner. I'd look politely, say, "She's cute," and change the subject. 8 months after the baby shower, my parents invited me to Sunday dinner. "Just us," my father promised. "Ashley and Jake are looking at apartments across town. They won't be here." I went. The pot roast was the same as always. The dining room looked the same. But something fundamental had shifted. My mother asked about my work and actually listened to my answer, didn't interrupt to talk about Ashley, didn't compare my success to my sister's struggles. My father told me about a documentary he'd watched about the Apollo missions. We talked about space exploration, about ambition, about dreaming big. We didn't talk about Ashley. We didn't talk about David. We didn't talk about the baby shower. It wasn't forgiveness exactly. But it was progress. As I was leaving, my mother hugged me at the door. "I'm trying," she whispered, "to see you, really see you, not just as the daughter who has it together, but as a person who's been through hell and survived it." "I know, Mom. I can tell. And I'm trying too. I know you are." I drove home in the quiet darkness, windows down, letting the spring air wash over me. It wasn't the family I'd imagined having. It wasn't the relationship I'd once wanted with my parents. But it was real. It was honest. And maybe, slowly, it could become something better. My phone buzzed. A text from Maria. "How was dinner?" "Better. Still complicated, but better. That's all you can ask for." I smiled and put my phone away. For the first time in almost a year, I felt something close to peace. 1 year after David's death, I did something I'd been putting off. I cleaned out his closet. His clothes still hung there, organized by color and season, exactly as he'd left them. His cologne still sat on the dresser. His watch collection was still in its display case. Maria came over to help. "You don't have to do this alone," she said. We worked in silence, folding shirts into donation boxes, setting aside the few things I wanted to keep. His Boston University sweatshirt, the watch he wore on our wedding day, a flannel shirt that still faintly smelled like him. At the bottom of his closet, I found a shoebox. Inside were the donor profiles we'd been reviewing. Donor number 847 was on top, with David's notes in the margins. Engineering degree. Good height. Looks like Ryan. Ryan was David's younger brother. Underneath the profiles was a letter, written in David's handwriting. It was addressed to me. "Emma, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. I know I should have told you this in person, but I'm a coward about certain things. I want you to know that you can still do this. You can still have the baby we planned. Donor number 847 is paid for. The clinic has everything ready. You can do IVF on your own if you want to. I know I've been difficult about my infertility. I know my shame made this harder than it needed to be. I'm sorry for that. My pride and fear got in the way of what we both wanted. But Emma, you would be an amazing mother. Don't let my death stop you from becoming one. Don't let my shame become yours. I love you. I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to be the man you deserved. But maybe, in this small way, I can still give you what we both wanted. Forever yours, David." I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Maria read it over my shoulder. "Oh, honey." "He was giving me permission," I whispered, "to have a baby without him." "Are you going to do it?" I thought about that. Thought about donor number 847 and the future David had planned for us. Thought about the baby that could still exist, the child that would be mine but not David's. "No," I said finally. That was our plan, together. It doesn't feel right to do it alone. That's okay too. I folded the letter carefully and put it back in the box. Some dreams die with the people who dream them, and that was okay. 15 months after David's death, I went on a date. His name was Michael Patterson. We met at a work conference. He was presenting on digital marketing trends, and I asked a question during the Q&A. We got coffee afterward. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a second date. I told him about David on the third date. Told him everything. The infertility, the IVF plans, the death, even the baby shower confrontation. That's a lot, he said carefully. Too much? No, just a lot. You've been through hell. I have. And I'm still figuring out how to be okay. I'm in therapy. I'm working on boundaries. I'm learning to trust again. That's brave. That's survival. Michael reached across the table and took my hand. I'm not trying to replace him. I just want to get to know you. I'd like that. 20 months after David's death, I had Sunday dinner with my parents. Ashley wasn't there. She and Jake had moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment across town. They weren't together romantically, but they were trying to build something resembling a co-parenting relationship. From what my mother said, it was working better than anyone expected. "How's Sophia?" I asked, testing the waters. My mother lit up. "She's walking now. And talking, well, babbling mostly. She says Papa to Jake. That's good. Would you like to see a photo?" I hesitated. Then, "Okay." My mother pulled out her phone, showed me a picture of a toddler with dark curls and a mischievous smile. She was wearing a tiny Red Sox jersey. "She's beautiful," I said. And I meant it. "Maybe sometime you could meet her," my mother said hopefully. "No pressure, just if you ever want to." "Maybe, but not yet." "I understand." And I think she did. 2 years after David's death, I stood in my newly renovated kitchen. I'd finally redecorated, made the space mine instead of ours, and thought about everything that had happened. I'd lost a husband, lost a future, lost the family I thought I had. But I'd gained something too. Myself. The version of me who set boundaries, who chose truth over comfort, who protected what was hers, even when it meant standing alone, who survived grief and betrayal and came out stronger. I thought about what I'd told Ashley at the baby shower. David and I were going to raise a donor baby together and love it fiercely. Because family isn't about DNA, it's about choice and commitment and honesty. That was still true. Love wasn't about genetics or blood, it was about choice. And I was choosing, every day, to build a life that honored David's memory without being imprisoned by it. To love my parents while maintaining boundaries. To forgive Ashley someday, maybe, but not to forget. To let go of the future I'd planned and embrace the one I was building. My phone buzzed, a text from Michael. "Dinner tonight? I'm cooking." I smiled and typed back, "I'll bring the wine." This wasn't the life I'd planned. It wasn't the happy ending I'd imagined when David proposed on that beach in Cape Cod. But it was mine. Hard-won, imperfect, real. And for the first time in 2 years, that was enough.